Mackenzie,
Lemar.
it's just June.
It's just June. It's just June.
It's June. We're doing whatever the hell movies we want to do, and we're doing Lilo and Stitch. So I wanted to open up with you've been to Disney before, yeah? One of the Disneys?
Disney World, yeah. Did Disney World, did all the parks.
Okay. Wanted to specifically open with favorite Disney ride. How long ago did you go? Was it recent or was it like years ago?
No, I was a kid, and so I don't remember all the names of everything, but I know all the parks. We did Magic
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom and Animal
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom and Epcot and all that jazz. So yeah, I was like 12-ish, I
Okay.
think.
All right. Do you remember what your favorite was when you were there?
Um, Okay, so first of all, I love all rides. Like I love roller coasters. I was just recently in Sydney actually, and the most fun thing that I did was this like with a buddy of mine who lives there, this like crazy boat ride. So I'm all for any kind of a ride. So it probably is hard for me to pick a favorite, but one that does stand out to me was Tower of Terror.
Oh, hell
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
one, it's the only name that I remember, but two, I also really remember like thinking it was really fun. And my mom and my
Mm-hmm.
parents like are not the people who buy the pictures of the ride. They're such a
Yeah.
ripoff. But they bought that one and it's somewhere at my mom's house because we're all like we look thrilled. We're like having a blast. And I look super happy and thrilled. But my mom doesn't ride roller coasters, so it was like my sister, my dad, myself, my cousins,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But anyway, I remember having a blast on that one, and that was the first time we rode one like that because I know
Like a drop ride.
yeah, like I know Fiesta Texas and all these other ones have it
Mm-hmm.
now, but I think that was the first time we'd ridden that,
Well,
so that
there's
was
like
really
the
fun.
Twilight Zone ride. I don't know if that's still there or not, but
I think it's there. Somebody told me, this is totally off topic, but like somebody told me they changed the name of it like
okay, okay.
recently, and I don't remember what we were talking about. But anyway, they were say I think it's there, but it's a
Called
new
something else.
yeah.
Fair.
Anyways,
Yeah.
what about you?
I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet because really this was just an excuse to go into a different sort of tangent. But I would say I think Space Mountain is the easy answer. I think Space Mountain's probably the best
Everybody likes
overall
that one, right?
ride. It's a
Yeah,
cool thrill ride, and
that's
I
at
like
Disney World, right? As
yes.
well.
And it's
Okay,
like
so then I
in
would
the
have written that.
dark. It looks like you're in
Oh
space. The
yes,
visuals
I
of it
love
is
that. Yeah,
very cool. Pirates of the Caribbean will always have a place in my
I did
heart.
love
Just
that
it's
one. That was
gimmicky, but
very
that one's
fun.
fun. But the reason that I really wanted to talk about this is I went to Disney back in like 2010 or so. There was a ride, a Lilo and Stitch ride, and it was Stitch's alien escape kind of thing. And you're kind of sitting in a circular laboratory in chairs, and they have shoulder harnesses, but you don't really move around, but it locks you into the seat. And what's happening is they're supposed to be teleporting Stitch to like another planet or back and forth. So it's kind of like the lights go out and then Stitch is there in the room in the middle, and then
Mm,
the lights go out, and then he escapes from the test tube, and there's all these effects in the chair. So there's
of
like
course he
you'll
does.
hear Stitch in your ear, and they'll blow like some spit, like some water on you to make it feel like Stitch is like drooling on you, and there's wind and stuff. And it was a cool little gimmicky ride, not even a ride, but just an experience. But it originally, and I remember this from going to Disney a decade prior, was called Alien Terrestrial Attack, and it was a horror ride with the same gimmick. You were sitting in a chair, but it wasn't Stitch in the tube. It was this terrifying alien thing, and it
Yeah.
escapes, and then you hear it flying around the room. You hear it breathing down your neck. Same premise, but different
Oh.
monster. They had to switch it, not just because, oh, Lilo and Stitch is popular, but because a guy had a heart attack, which I shouldn't be
No.
laughing. A man died because of that alien ride, so
He
they
died.
switched it to Lilo and Stitch. To my knowledge, I
Oh
might be
my
making up the death part,
god.
but I'm pretty sure they closed the ride and reopened it as Stitch because it would be less scary. Yeah,
Whoa. Also, I do think that like popular was a factor, but damn, like that maybe you should be riding rides if you're like easily
yeah,
terrified, I mean, or you have a heart condition. Don't they say that on the warnings? Like
yeah. They
don't ride
probably
this
have
if you
like
have
the
a heart
seizures
condition.
thing, the lights, the noises, all the same stuff you get at haunted houses. You would think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would so love that ride. I
It was
love
very,
I
both were very cool. I liked them both for different reasons, and I was just like, why did they switch this? And I looked it up, and that's apparently the reason. So I just thought I'd get that out there in the world.
Wow. All right. Well, now I got to go back. Good to know. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie,
I'm Lemar.
and we are continuing Just June here on the pod, which is our super flexible month of just random movies we decided to pick.
It's the
And
summer,
Lamar
guys.
got
It's
two.
hot. Like
It's
we
yeah.
don't have the brain power to think up themes, you know?
It's true. I think we spent a good minute after recording one day trying, and we were like, "Fuck it,
Let's do some movies.
Let's just do some movies. Let's just talk about some movies." So I guess we had mutually picked Sinners, but it was kind of Lamar's suggestion. So I got a couple I got to choose, and this is one of them, which I'm shocked that I haven't made us watch yet, actually, because I am obsessed. So we're gonna be talking about Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, which is a fun one. I think this was only my second time seeing this in full. This era of Disney films, I feel like I was 15ish, so I was too old or thought I was too old for Disney films. So
I also thought I was too old for this, but I made an exception. So yeah.
It was the same for Emperor's New Groove. It was like I went a decade without seeing that just because that was the era of Disney films where I wasn't paying attention. And Pixar, this feels like sort of a turning point for Disney because it was like they were still trying to do traditional animation, and then they sort of started working more with Pixar, and they didn't really have many other hits after this until
Emperor's New Groove wasn't a hit. It's like a hit in retrospect now. Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that because I think what it is that we grew up in the era of the Disney Renaissance, as they call it, and all those hit movies that were just like back to back incredible. But at this age and around this time when these are coming out on Emperor's New Groove as well, like we're too cool for that now. You know what I mean? It's like, I wonder if that's why they were underperformers, and they weren't hits really, because we were that generation who was obsessed with that was kind of over it. But anyway, this one ends up being, very popular.
Yeah, it felt like they were pivoting a bit. I don't know if it was trying. I know they were collaborating with Pixar, so I don't know if they were still also trying to compete with Pixar to like stay relevant. But it's weird that this and Emperor's New Groove don't. It's the first time correct me if I'm wrong. I think of the Disney movies I saw when I was a kid, and it was always very clear who the good guy was, and they were always very pure and valiant. And then you have these two that come out around the same time, and it's like Lilo's kind of an asshole. Stitch is definitely an asshole. Emperor's New Groove,
Lilo's
the main character,
not an asshole, and Stitch is not an asshole. The whole premise is they are misunderstood. Okay, you just you got to give them a minute. All right, they're bacon.
They're social worker. I think he sees things my way, but we'll get into that.
Well, he comes around also because they're bacon. Anyways. This is an interesting era. It was a transitional era for Disney. So anyway, before we get into all of that, because I have so many thoughts, what are we drinking?
Yeah, so our drink provided by at Craft World as always. So you're going to need 2 ounces of clear rum, 0.75 ounces of lime juice, 0.75 ounces of simple syrup, half an ounce of ginger liqueur. And what the hell, Mackenzie, is a whisper of blue curacao?
I am so glad you brought that up because I wanted to immediately text back and be like, can we talk about a whisper? I don't know what a whisper is. So
my measuring cup does not have that on the little lines.
Does not have that on the... Yeah, and I need that information. I wonder how different or the same our colors will be as a result of this.
Yeah, so we're calling this Experiment 626 because hopefully that curacao gave you a nice little blue
we're pretty
tint.
Close.
Okay. So you got that blue tint on there. Yeah, came out good.
Not bad. All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's see how it is. Oh my God, that's pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, but weird, I almost put it in this, but I have to show it because I didn't. I always have a glass of water when we record. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but I do. And so today you gotta stay hydrated, and it's usually my liquid death cup, which is beautiful. But today it's my Stitch cup. There he is, looking so cute. And I'm gonna get. He's not an asshole. Stop it. I'm going to get all my merch out of the way for you right now here at the top. So that's my cup. And then for those of you who are watching, there's a Stitch on my bookshelf. He's my little miniature guy. I used to have a big one. I gave it to my nephew because I'm nice. And then my shirt.
Just so all the merch.
I got all the Stitch stuff. I love Stitch, in case that's not clear. I just want to set the stage right now. Like, I just want you all to know what you're getting into. So, let's do it.
Let's do it.
What do we think? I don't think we really need a spoiler warning, guys. It's been, 23 years since this came out. Yeah. You've seen it or you're not gonna probably. So I think it is important to note, though, they have done a remake that is out right now as we speak.
Yeah, this was timely. We didn't even plan that, really. It was just...
We did. I do think it's what made me think of it, but it is not like why, because I haven't seen it. I actually have very mixed feelings about whether or not I'm going to see it because I don't want them to ruin this for me.
Yeah.
So anyways, all that to say, this is the 2002 edition of this film, the original animated version. This has pretty solid ratings. This is a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb and a 86% critics, 78% audiences on Rotten Tomatoes. So not bad. From the 7s and the 8s, you know, the critics liked it quite a bit, actually. We also have like a duo here who are doing the directing and the writing of this one. So this is Dean DeBlois and Chris Sanders. They both did How to Train Your Dragon, like direct and write that as well. And then Chris Sanders has also done recently The Wild Robot, which I point out because it was one of the Oscar ones that I had to watch this year, and it was so good. It will make you cry, but it was real good.
Are you going to mention all of Chris Sanders' other involvement in this? Like
yes,
not a one-man show by any means, but geez.
Yeah, kind of, a little bit. So yeah, and he did the new Lilo and Stitch, and then we'll just start off with him on the cast because he's also the voice of Stitch. And I think the fun thing about this is he created Stitch, the character, in 1985, and it was actually it was on the shelf a little while. He had actually pitched it as a children's book that ended up, of course, not being successful, not getting picked up, whatever. So it was a character he had created for this children's book that never got off the ground. And so here we are. And I think the best iteration of it, to be honest. So yeah, he's done a lot of voice work as well, though.
I didn't realize it was a children's book. I just saw at the end in the credits when it says based on an idea by. And I went, so was his idea just alien goes to Hawaii, hijinks ensue? But then now it was a kid's book. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, and I will say he didn't come up with the location. That was actually, you know, part of what was workshopped later on. But he did come up with the character and like the basic concept, of course. But he definitely did the character. So.
Did you read the thing about that originally they didn't even have a voice for Stitch because he was going to be silent, and he just sort of went into the booth and was like, let's try these few lines out, and they liked his voice. So he kind of lucked into playing the character that he created, which is kind of cool.
I think it's cool too because I think it helps like show how intelligent he is, which you're supposed to glean, but it is harder to glean if he doesn't talk at all. Not to say he's not. Like there are actual dogs who are obviously very smart, and they prove that through a number of ways. So it could have come English. They're
rarely speaking English. Yeah.
Rarely speaking English.
Except for
Huskies,
those ones
however,
on the YouTube videos, where they're like,
I was going to say Huskies are right there. Like they are on the line. And also my baby Rolo, rest in peace. I'm pretty sure he was about to start talking. Like we were almost there. I'm convinced. So, you know, dogs are smart, but Stitch took it to the next level. And he actually speaks in this one. Yeah. So, but I would say he's the sidekick-ish, but kind of not. We have 2 stars of this, and it's in the name, I think it's fair to say. So Lilo, of course, is played by Davay Chase. And she, funnily enough, was in Spirited Away, which it beat Lilo and Stitch for Best Animated Film in the same year. So she was in both of them. How
often that happens, that one actor or actress is in the same category more. I'm sure it happens a fair amount, but
it happens in the actor and actress category every now and then, and it's like a couple of them, and or you're like best actress and best supporting, or best actor, best supporting as well. I think it's happened the last couple of years actually, but yeah, so she was going to win either way, really is what it came down to. I personally love this movie, so I'm a little upset about how that turned out, but good on her. She was in both of them. She also did Donnie Darko and like The Ring. Yeah,
she was like the wildly different things. Sister in Donnie Darko, and then they gave her a spin-off movie a decade later. I didn't see it, but it was called S. Darko for Samantha Darko, and apparently it was not good. So she got to reprise her role. So,
and I of course have heard of Donnie Darko and seen that several times, but
I'm sorry I kind of forced you to glaze over the fact that she plays Samara in The Ring. Terrifying to think.
No, I mean she does a great job at that as well. So it's interesting. She can be, she can do these animated things and then also do these really dark and twisty things.
And Davy Chase, this was before or after she created The Sopranos.
What?
So good for her, No, I'm kidding. It's David Chase.
When
I saw her name on the screen, I was like, David Chase? Okay.
I was like, she did not? Okay. Threw me for a loop, y'all. Threw me for a loop.
Very impressive for a 10-year-old.
Right. For a 10-year-old, just really cranking the work out. I mean, they put her in these heavy movies, so like I don't know, maybe
It's like a 10-year-old. So there's this mob boss. He lives in.
Just imagine the pitch, right? She's coming off the set of Lilo and Stitch and pitching that. Oh, all right. Well, we also have Nani is played by Tia Carrere, and she is probably most well known for Wayne's World.
Cassandra.
Yeah, I had to include Relic Hunter because exactly.
Never
like
heard of it.
nobody probably watched that, but my mom. We also never had cable. I want to be super clear. Like some of the dark horse shit that we watched is because we did not have cable, and my mom was obsessed with Relic Hunter, so we did watch that. But anyway, yeah, she's been in a few other things, but those are probably the ones that people really know.
And remind me, I know at some point during today's episode we're going to talk about the music from this film, and I got a little Tia Carrere fact when we get there, but I'm going to save it.
Okay. I will remind you when I mention the composer in 3.5 minutes. All right. So David Ogden Stiers plays Jumba, and he is of MASH fame. And I hope that everybody knows who I mean when we're talking about this, but he was in MASH. He was so good. He has such a great voice, as evidenced by not only this, but Beauty and the Beast he was in, Pocahontas he was, Governor Ratcliffe, like some of those key voices that you hear them and you know who they are, like that's the guy.
And to my point earlier, he's in Spirited Away too. So when I said, how often does that happen? Twice in this same year. So
twice in the same year, exactly. Kevin McDonald plays Pleakley, who I have a weird affinity for. I remember Pleakley kind of annoying me when I was younger, and now I just feel bad for him. So he's kind of funny and cute. But he's been in a ton of stuff. He did Sky High. He did The Kids in the Hall, neither of which I have seen. I maybe have seen Sky High, but like I cannot remember.
I've seen a couple episodes of Kids in the Hall. That was like 90s sketch comedy, but I found Janelle and I had the exact same thought. Like I had it in my head as we were watching it, and then we were talking about the movie the next day, and she said it. But it was just like I was surprised he didn't do more. I mean, he does some voice work, he does some television series,
but he does a good job with the voice.
Yeah, but he didn't get a ton of movie, at least big productions. And then we both had the same thought of Alan Tudyk kind of took that spot. Like at this point in the last 10 years or so, 15 years, you need somebody to do a wacky, zany voice, you're probably going to Alan Tudyk.
It's true. And actually, there's a few that I can think of too. You know, the guy who does Gollum that we were just talking
Andy
about.
Serkis?
Andy Serkis, yes. He hasn't, like, not cutesy voices, but he does crazy voices really well. So again, if you need like a character or a creature or something, like I could
just so everyone gets the right, because no one heard us talking about Gollum. I tried to do a Stitch voice at the start of the episode, guys, and it just came out as Gollum. You're not going to get to hear that, but that's
I wasn't going to out you. I was just saying we were talking about it, but yeah, it didn't go great.
Well, we don't just normally. I'm just saying we don't always spend our free time off the pod talking about Gollum. That's not typically the topic of conversation.
We're not like immediately into My Precious, like out of the gate. Yeah, no, that's true. No, but we did chat about him. We'll Stitch's voice will come back later. It's fine. But Ving Rhames, we got to talk about as well. Number one, who doesn't fucking love Ving Rhames? Like he can do whatever he wants. He's just a badass, and he plays Cobra Bubbles. And again, somehow still a badass. You know, he's a fucking social worker, and he's a badass.
I like to pretend he's just Marcellus Wallace after getting out of that basement and he took a new life, you know, kind of started fresh, because he looks exactly like Marcellus with the gold earrings, even like the back of the head, like the folds in his neck and his skull.
Sunglasses, like yeah, he's got the vibes for sure. And he does say in the film that he's former CIA, so like maybe he went into the CIA after that, and then after that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna take care of kids. Like, what a decision. Anyways, obviously Ving Rhames is from Pulp Fiction, if you didn't catch that, and also all the Mission Impossibles, like from the number one, from the first one. So
and
what?
Dawn of the Dead 2004.
God damn it. I'm not gonna bring that up every time. That is literally your job. Like I'm gonna pretend that movie doesn't exist if I can. Anyways, no, and last one that I have, you may have some nuggets as well, but the last one I have is Zoe Caldwell, who does the Grand Councilwoman, who I just think has a beautiful voice. Like she sounds so regal and lovely, and she hasn't done a ton of things that people would know, but she did do Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close kind of recently, which I think did get some notoriety. But she has a great voice.
She feels like the inspiration for a lot of the Marvel royalty and space characters. Anytime
Yeah.
somebody does that, they usually have an English accent for some reason. Everybody that's rich in space is English, but she kind of
Yep.
has that proper tone that I feel like a lot of people are probably leeching off of.
Also, anybody who's not American is English, because we're like the only accent outside of America is English, apparently. Oh,
Solid
you're in
facts.
ancient Rome? Obviously, you sound English. Why
Yeah,
not?
we should cover Troy at some point and all the 18
Oh,
accents
yeah.
that get used in that. But the only other one that I had was Kevin Michael Richardson, and the reason I wanted to call him out, he plays Captain Gantu, is he
Yeah, that's
played
true.
Goro in Mortal Kombat, the movie, and he's still to this day. I was like, where do I know this voice from? He's on. Everyone apparently is on the animated show Invincible on Prime, and he's using the exact same voice that he's using for Gantu to play these two villains in that. He plays like these
Oh,
twin
wow.
big strong guys, but it's just Captain Gantu's voice.
That's so funny. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, his voice is good. He doesn't get as much screen time here, but yeah, his voice is just like deep. You can feel it in your stomach. I feel like it's pretty impressive. Okay, really quick plot summary for those of you who haven't seen this and are still here for whatever reason.
Alien goes to Hawaii.
Alien goes to Hawaii. Hijinks ensue. That is a pretty solid summary. But yeah, a young and parentless girl, ouch, by the way, adopts a dog from the local pound, completely unaware that it is supposedly a dangerous scientific experiment that's taken refuge on Earth and is now hiding from its creator and those who see it as a menace.
Which is
pretty legit.
Just great premise. Whatever, I don't know
It
what
is a
the
great
1985 book looked like, what the text was, but a cute alien that is programmed to destroy and want to murder people and wreck cities and shit, getting stranded on a, it's just such a fun concept to watch unfold.
It is such a fun concept, and he is so cute. I'm so glad we can agree. Anyways, this was also, I didn't want to forget, composed by Alan Silvestri. He does, however, have some collaboration with the Hawaiian Hula Master on some of the key songs in the score, and I do not know how to say this man's name. I did look it up, but I'm going to give it my best shot, which is Mark Kilii O Omalu. And that's probably really wrong, but I tried. But he helped compose some of these pieces with Alan Silvestri, so it's a really good score, I think.
Nice. Well, I will use that to spin off to my note that I was mentioning before of the music in this is great. Not just the scores, but the amount of Elvis songs that we get. I love how that gets worked into the plot, but we get a ton of Elvis. And the third thing that I wanted to point out was I wrote down, okay, the score's really good, the Elvis song's really good. And then I wrote down, and the Hawaiian music, and then I had the thought of, is that appropriate? Am I allowed to say that? But turns out Hawaiian music is its own genre, and Tia Carrere has 2 Grammys in that category. So I'm like, okay, I feel justified in writing down Hawaiian music. It is a thing.
Yeah, she is Hawaiian. She was born on Hawaii. She has Filipino parents, and so she sings, and she has some great albums. Another fun fact about Elvis, though, this has the most Elvis songs of any movie in history until Elvis was made in 2022.
Goddamn.
So this has held the title for a long time.
How many do you know off the top of your head how many songs? Because I didn't count, but it didn't feel like that many. But now that you say that, I'm like, what did I miss?
I don't, but I think my guess is like 10, because there's like some in the background and, stuff like that. But yeah, no, they're all in there. Also, those are some of the only live action photos in this. There's a couple, if you look closely, there's a couple like posters that are real photos and things like that. And then the pictures of Elvis are also real. Like they're not animated.
It's so weird that you don't notice that when you're watching it. Really, you don't think of it. You just assume I'm watching an animated picture. But those, and then when Stitch is watching the monster movie on TV and it's an actual film, it's a cool thing that I wouldn't expect from a 2002 animated picture,
Yeah, and I think like while we're talking about the animation, may as well mention this is, a watercolor animation in the background. So they wanted the feel of the movie to be pretty different actually than some of those other ones that had come out recently that like weren't as successful. So an Emperor's New Groove is an example, and they wanted it to feel more nostalgic. They wanted to kind of pivot away from what they had been doing and a lot of the like color correction. And I don't remember the name of the technique, but there is a technique for the way that they did color before. They didn't do that here, and they wanted it again to look really nostalgic. And that watercolor feature has only been used in 2 other Disney movies, which is Dumbo was the last one to do it prior to this, and then Snow White, the very first. So it's really unique in that way. And they don't do it again in the later movies and series that come out after this. So this is the only one that has it.
Yeah, I wonder why they did it the one time and then have not gone back to that well.
It's very expensive. It's very expensive. And those second and thirds in those series, like they always just don't have the budget. So I mean, I haven't read that anywhere as the reason, but I'm almost certain that would be the reason. Is just like not enough money to do it. But
nowadays you just use fucking AI. Can we use AI to do our podcast for us?
I think that it has to have our actual voice, doesn't it? I don't know. We can test it later.
Okay.
I don't think it can fully capture my nerdness. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Or my alcoholism.
Right.
Computers can't drink, so go fuck yourself.
It's true.
You can't do everything I can do.
Yeah, they're not taking our jobs yet, bitches. Anyways, this was actually very successful, as we mentioned earlier. Like this different take on the animation, the different locale. Like there's no other Disney movie placed in Hawaii, for example, or on Hawaii rather. And so this did against a budget of 80 million, 273.1 million. So pretty solid run, especially like 2000, again 23 years ago, so pretty legit. And I remember this, I don't know if you do, when you were deciding you were too cool for this. I was also deciding that, to be fair. But the trailers, like, do you remember the trailers that came out around this time where it was actually
crossover stuff, but I don't remember them.
So they were like basically disrupting their existing titles. Like Stitch was coming through and like wreaking havoc on these other titles. So it was like on The Little Mermaid, like he surfs a wave and it crashes on Ariel. And then like in The Beauty and the Beast, like Stitch is the one that causes the chandelier to fall during the ballroom scene. And he like nearly hits Beauty and the Beast in that process while they're like dancing.
Did they have one where Stitch throws Mufasa down into the pit and says, "Long live the king"? Did they do that one? That's low hanging fruit, I feel like.
They did do a Lion King one, but they did not want
to. They don't have Stitch murder
as dark and twisty as that. No, Stitch takes Simba's place on Pride Rock during the Circle of Life in the Lion King one, because why not? So anyway, they have a bunch more, but anyway, I do remember those, and I remember thinking like, what is this fucking movie? Like, what are they, what am I about? Because again, it's showing previews of these other movies that have already happened. And you're like, what am I about to watch? And I don't remember why I went to this movie, but I did end up seeing it in theaters. And so something convinced me, and I definitely thought I was too cool for it, but I ended up going. So let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into why I love this movie. So like as soon as it opens, we're in an alien universe. Like it's not it gives you kind of a Star Wars vibe, actually, a little bit at the top, like a Star Wars energy, but animated version. You don't really know what you're being dropped into.
All the different looking aliens, as opposed to just one race. It's like a mishmash of like all different creatures. I like that.
Yeah, I do like that. They're all really different. It is probably hard to animate. They are all really different. The color is also, I think it's important to note, like very different than what we see later too, right? Like when there's the shift to Hawaii, like it looks notably different. And I think it's cool.
Bright and colorful and not.
Yeah, it's like bright and colorful, and it's got the watercolor effect and that nostalgic feel to it and that island feel to it. So but this is where we get introduced to Experiment 626. Our namesake of our cocktail, and he's presented as being like pretty bad, like to your point, like people are not fans. And the whole time I'm watching it, and again I've seen this a million times and I love him, so I am biased, but the whole time I'm like, he's so cute. Like, why are we so upset at him? He's so adorable.
He is, and I like that they establish that what is the emperor, the leader's name?
Grand Councilwoman, I think, is like what they only call her. Yeah,
when the Grand Councilwoman. So we establish early on that she has kind of hope for him, and that obviously circles back at the end that she wants to see if he can change.
I do love that she asks that first. Like maybe he is some good in him.
And she gives him a chance to speak, but then he yells nonsense, but it is clearly expletives and it offends everyone in the room. And I
have the translations if you'd like.
Let's hear it. I'm very curious.
Two possible translations of what he says, which is Miga nala quista. But it is translated to either, this is hotly debated all over the interwebs, just so you know, I have a burning sensation in my rear end. one really offensive option, obviously. And then another one that says, I want to destroy, which is supposedly the translation from the fictional alien language that they made for this movie that they don't have fully fleshed out, but has a lot of phrases. And supposedly that's it. And it's a combo of Hawaiian, Chinese, and she's Cretan.
That's kind of ahead of Despicable Me and like the Minion language that they created,
Yeah.
right? That's what, like a decade before that. So
Yeah.
okay,
Which like Minion definitely has some Spanish and some French and some weird.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a
I
bunch of
mean,
combos in there.
I of those two options, I like the first one. I think the first one is what's going to get that reaction from the crowd, as opposed to the just destruction kind
Yeah,
of
rather
thing.
than
But
just the like, like
yeah,
the like,
yeah,
this is just a like people vomit like as a reaction to what he says.
yeah.
So
I
it's
thought
kind
there
of
would be some
extreme.
F words in there for sure, but maybe not in a Disney
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, no. Like, and it's funny you say that. I love that, like, as he goes through the even the insults and the yelling and the frustration from everybody is pretty wholesome. It's
Hmm.
like a lot of stupid head, a lot of like that kind of, and they say stupid head repeatedly. And I feel like I went on to say that stupid head quite a bit after this. But yeah, it's all like all the insults are so wholesome. Like he's not that bad. It's
Childish.
not that
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah. I do. There's one little gag that I like. It's just a visual gag, but on the ship when he escapes and he's heading toward Earth, and I think the Grand Council was the one who says, it's whatever percent water that planet. He's not going to
Yeah, he
survive
won't
in
survive.
water. They cut to all the little innocent aliens, and they're like, "Yay!" They're celebrating that he's
They're
going to die.
celebrating him dying. Yeah.
Just such a little throwaway gag. I don't even know if like kids would get that, but that made me laugh.
And they're all cute in their own way, too. And it's like these cute little animals relishing in the death of another one. That's
Yeah.
funny. I
I
wouldn't
saw
even
something that group of aliens were kind of inspired by Winnie the Pooh animations. If you look at them, there's kind of a
totally.
piglet looking one, there's a Pooh looking one, but then when you see them celebrating death, definitely a little different.
Yeah, they said a lot of them are based off of like Winnie the
Okay.
Pooh animations, which I love that for us because who doesn't love Winnie the Pooh? I mean, Ticker's annoying as fuck, but it's cool animation. Anyways, but this movie gives me all the feels. I can tell because like as soon as I watch it, like nothing has happened yet, and I'm immediately like, I love this movie so much. But I just love in that escape scene that you're talking about, where he's like trying to get off the ship. You already see how smart he is,
Yeah,
right? Like he's
hyper.
immediately testing the waters. He's messing with his saliva with the gun, and he's like, I can figure my way out of here. And that's
Mhm.
just my favorite thing. If they're all convinced that they're gonna, commit this kid to exile and it's gonna be fine and whatever, and he's just like, absolutely not. Like I will get out of here whether you like it or not, and he does. Freedom. And but I love her reaction to when it like is an island. She's like, of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. And then we get the first of probably my favorite running joke throughout there. But I love the gag that Earth is like a protected planet because
I know.
like
For the
mosquitoes are an
mosquito
endangered
population.
species. And it's like she
Oh,
is food for them. You cannot kill her because like there's like five different lines about the mosquitoes, and I love
oh
every
yeah.
single one of them.
And I love that Pleakley has a viewfinder that like with his one eye wouldn't work,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
because you
I
have to
didn't pick
have
up
two
on
eyes to see it. And so he's like trying to educate people with this viewfinder that he can't even see. And meanwhile, he's like deeply insulting humanity the whole
that.
time. That's the
Hmm.
best part too. It's like every time they get hit with an asteroid, like they got to start life all over again. Are they intelligent? No. But they're
Yeah.
very delicate. Like it's so funny. I
Again,
love Pleakley.
when I say transitionary period for Disney, I think if you go back and you watch a lot of the 90s ones that we grew up with, there's not as many jokes that are aimed for the parents and the adults that are watching these films. It feels like these
Mm-mm.
early aught were their
Oh
attempts
yeah.
at, hey, let's do what Pixar's doing and start appealing to all ages. And those jokes,
Yeah.
the whole asteroid thing probably isn't going to land with like a 6-year-old,
Asteroid
right?
thing, even the mosquito thing, the Area
Hmm.
51 references that are
Yes.
repeated throughout, like yeah, a lot of those jokes are just not gonna land for sure. I think you're right. And like they're subtle enough to where it's still funny to the kids because they kind of like know it should be funny, but they don't like get all the references, and you still, yeah, you have some stuff for the parents.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
But I love when we get, they have to go after him, basically. So we get Jumba and Pleakley, which is like such a fun, little duo that has to go after him. Very unlikely duo. And he's going through the prison and he's like, does he have a brother? Does he have a neighbor with a beard? Just literally anybody else but a criminal that's in this building. And
Right.
so I love that they go after him, and he's the one who knows him the best in theory. So he has to, go after him. And you get this cut to, like I said, Hawaii that is so immediately different. You know, like the dynamic is different, the pacing is different, it's beautiful. And then you get introduced to Pudge the fish is a very important character. No big deal, he just controls the weather, and she has to bring him a sandwich. And I just love that this is the beginning of Lilo, like in her own world, in her own head, like all the things that are important to her. And I deeply believe that she's just misunderstood. And she's coming off of, you know, she has lost her parents. Her guardian is her sister. And you find out later that her parents die in a car crash, right? And it's a rainy rainstorm. Why do we think she's bribing Pudge the fish with peanut butter sandwiches, right? So that the weather doesn't change, you know? Like, this is a critical thing for her to do, and she comes and she tries to explain it because it makes the most sense in the world to her, and the people in the room just don't get it, you know? And it just, like, it makes your heart melt, or at least makes my heart melt for her, of just like, she still wants to be here and she wants to be a part of this community and she wants to build a family, but like there are reasons for these other antics that she's up to.
We know that Stitch is the lovable little thing that kids are going to latch onto him just visually because he's adorable and whatnot. But Lilo is the star of the show in this, I think. Like, she is
cute.
Adorbs. The performance from the kid is incredible. The voice is great. And I just love how she has these really cute lines of dialogue, but then she will just immediately throw hands when somebody says,
oh yeah, she will fuck up our setup. I mean, literally, I was obsessed with Lilo. I was like, Lilo is me, and I need a dog to be Stitch. Like, that was my mentality. She will throw hands, but she's cute as heck. I definitely dressed up as Lilo for Halloween, and I carried around my Stitch doll, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, she's just been through some shit, and so she's not unwilling to, like you said, throw hands and defend herself. And but she really does want to connect, you know.
She's making attempts with the other kids to apologize and to get in with them, despite some of it sucks for her, because not only has she lost her parents, but she is kind of an outcast within her friend circle too, or the kids her age. So, well,
and like, let's be honest, like, she's saying these people are her friends, but they're not, right? Like, nobody's treating her like a friend. She doesn't really have a friend, and she's trying to, and she's being treated differently because people don't understand the dark and twisty things she says sometimes, but she's been through some trauma that they haven't been through, right? And so she makes them feel weird, and it alienates them, and it alienates her. And so, but they're just also mean girls. Girls are mean at that age, and so they're not going to be able to try to connect with her. But that is like the rejection on top of everything else she feels. So like, at that age, you cannot, she's like 6, you can't emotionally regulate. You go home and you throw a tantrum, you know? And so to me, she's just a little girl in a lot of pain and having tantrums, but is also adorable and funny and cute.
And exploring this interesting hobby of taking really unflattering pictures of large people at the beach.
She has such an interesting lens. I think that's something you could really dig into. She's like, these people are like weird looking, and I want to document it. Like, she's going to be that kid who's the most interesting kid. You know what I mean? Like, these other well-adjusted kids, they're going to go on to their picket fences and their husbands and their kids and their lives and whatever. And like, Lilo's going to be a famous photographer.
I was going to say, you know what I mean? Have like an exhibition at MoMA or some shit.
Right. You know? She's going to be so successful, this girl, for sure. For sure.
Well, we get kind of like, we know we've kind of established the characters. I guess we can touch really quick before we get to when they actually meet, of the dynamic between the two sisters. Like, that's the part, it's a little difficult to watch. You sort of touched on it, of her sister has to be her guardian, and obviously it is a cartoon, it is scripted, but it's really rough to watch all these circumstances where things are just going wrong at the exact wrong time with this social worker with an eye on them. But any notes on sort of the dynamic between the sisters in this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a number of things, because one, it feels like that. It feels like, you know, a comedy of errors, but it also feels like a little bit heavier movie of their parents died, and this woman who was supposed to be able to have a totally different life. Like, it's implied that she was a competitive surfer. Like, you see her trophies and medals and all this, and she just stopped doing that to take care of her little sister, who's only 6 years old, right? So like, her life is upended by this as well, and we don't spend a ton of time in her headspace about that. But like, I think you have to observe that her life has been changed too, and they're both trying to figure this out, and it's really hard. And they're also, at the end of the day, just sisters who are going to fight, right? Like, and this person is trying to be her sister but also be her parent. And that combines all kinds of things. But I also just saw that, and I was like, this is me and my big sister. Like, we fought all the fucking time, like really bad, to the degree that I thought she fucking hated me. I mean, I really did. I was like, she doesn't like me. And all I wanted was I was totally a Lilo who was like, you like me better than a rabbit, right? Like she's
Why don't
so
you
upset.
sell me and buy a rabbit? I like that.
Right. Like, she thinks that her sister doesn't love her because everything, again, at that age feels like such a rejection. Like, you don't understand it. And of course her sister loves her, and same thing, like, obviously my sister loved me, she was just annoyed with me, and like, but you at that younger age, like, you just can't process that in the same way. And the times that they're happiest and you see them being sweet to one another is when in like crisis, or if they're just getting to be sisters, like getting to be friends and friendly. And that dynamic has got to be super fucking hard for both of them. But it also results in like a lot of hilarious situations, like climbing out of a dryer and, and
did you
nailing
see
the
that on
door
Disney
shut.
Plus now? It's not a dryer anymore.
Oh yeah, I did.
changed
I have it in all caps. I was so pissed. I literally went and switched to my DVD version because I was like, I am not watching this edited nonsense. It's a pizza box.
I was like, what the fuck is she supposed to be climbing out of? Like, it's
also,
like a
the
cupboard
click sound,
with a pizza box.
she points to the click sound, and there's no reason for her to point to the sound. They don't even have the sound in the new version. Like, what the fuck? And I read about it later, and they were like, I had it in all caps. I was like, pizza box? What the fuck, Disney? And I Googled it, and so kids don't hide in dryers. And I was like,
I did that when I was a kid, and I turned out fine.
And I'm fucking fine. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're fine. God, helicopter parents, can you calm the fuck down and stop ruining a classic? Anyway, yeah, so I watched the OG because I was mad.
So when we get to them finally meet, I love the setup, first of all, when Lilo's alone in her room and she's kind of praying and she says, maybe send me an angel.
Send me an angel.
The nicest angel you have. And it hard cut to Stitch looking horrifying with his
just
green
maniacal
eyes, screaming. That is such a great gag. Yeah.
He is an angel. He just has to work toward it. It just takes him a minute. But I love when they go adopt him. That whole scene is so cute. That shelter lady, though, sucks. Like, what kind of name is that? Excuse you, ma'am. Yeah. Like, you don't, whatever that kid names that dog, you shut the fuck up. Like, I was like, you obviously don't have children. You're kind of the worst.
Feels like a weird line to even put in the script. What's the point? Yeah. Like, nobody ever says that.
Like it.
That's a weird name.
I was like, that nobody would say that. Right. No one would say that. But I also love that Stitch is like, F this bee, and they're out. Like, he just wants to leave. But then they go home, and he's obviously like utter mayhem immediately. And then it's so cute when she puts the lei on him, the white lei, and he immediately just falls flat.
Chills
and
out.
Is like, just chills out. And it's like this, love and tranquility. These are like the symbols of this. And I just thought it was so cute that he's like, okay. What's happening? What's this? He gives it a minute. Yeah. He gives it a minute.
I can't remember if it's before or after that, but when he sets up the mini like San Francisco and then it proceeds to destroy
She's like, why don't you make something? And he's like, okay, good idea.
And then just plays Godzilla. That's a great visual. Yeah.
I just think it's also so indicative of like, he's also kind of a baby. You know what I mean? He's a baby monster, but he's a baby. Like he wants to do this thing, and it's fun for him. Like, this is playtime to some degree. And so and it's interesting, I'm curious what you think, but I love that he likes like the pyromania of the luau. And he's like so into it, but generally he's like kind of grumpy to have to play dog and do all of this, but he like likes that and thinks it's cool. And then they get all the snacks, and then he steals the dessert from her, and then like vomits it all back up and reassembles it and like tries to make it look pretty for her. And I actually thought that was really sweet, because it's the first time I think that you see him feel bad for anything.
Yeah, like kind of empathizing. Yeah,
he's like my bad, here, have some. And she's like, ugh.
And also, you can't make this joke anymore. Your dog can't sit at the table. Can't do that in Austin. People will sue your ass. Their dog can sit wherever the fuck
we will sue you, we will fight you, we will stab you. Like, you don't talk about my dog like that, yeah, for sure.
I also like in that first sort of, I think it's the little montage before that, but when he literally raises a fist as if he's gonna punch Nani, I don't know why, but that visual of that little creature dog thing, and he's like got his fist reared back.
He's like,
I gotta laugh at him.
And then he has to like, hug Lilo instead because they're watching him. Yeah, that's a little harsh. That's a little dark and twisty. Again, he's he's got some rage issues. And I like that she talks to him and she's like, this is your badness level. This is abnormally high for someone of your size. And she's just, I love that she's diagnosing him. And
Mhm.
but I also like that they're so similar, basically. They're both little orphans trying to, find their place in the world, and they're lost.
Mhm.
And I think that's such an important theme to call out of this movie, is that the lonely duckling book that he becomes interested in, of all the things that are in the house for him to be interested in, he's like, oh, like, what is this sad lonely duckling? And this is, that duckling is lost and doesn't know where his family is, and she feels lost and he feels lost, and like that's the theme of the film. And the song Hey Mele no Lilo, that means lullaby of the lost, right?
Hmm.
And so he's like he I feel like he takes it to her because he's like, what is that? Like, he understands that and is kind of like, tell me the story, explain it to me a little bit. And I just think it's like so indicative. Again, Lilo is in the meaning of that. And so I think it's, them calling attention to how lost she is, how lost he is. And like, that's how they relate. That's how they connect. And they kind of are finding each other.
Yeah, I think the last thing I wrote down in my notes, not from what we've already, but my very last note is the moral of this story is a really good one on just
Mm-hmm.
family and it not having to be perfect and all that. So totally agree with that. I wanted to also talk briefly. I just think the Jumba and Pleakley combo is so much fun when they're in Hawaii together and they're
Yes.
constantly dressed as couples. And I love
Yes.
that line of like, actually, no, she's just ugly.
She's just ugly. Don't worry. She's just
Yeah,
ugly. And he's like, haha, that's so funny. And like the crazy voice that he
yeah,
does. And
yeah,
yeah. And then like the Bleakley getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, and also every other animal attacking him. I love
yeah.
that he like is trying to preserve Earth and he ends up hating Earth at the end of the day. So that's also just a really fun gag that keeps going kind of throughout. But I mean, I think this all leads to like, she's trying to, while Nani is trying to find a job and be able to, keep Lilo and Cobra not take her away, which obviously sounds terrible in a number of ways.
Hmm.
Um, they just have all these like, just adventures, and it's so cute. They find out that he's a gramophone slash, phonograph all of a sudden. And like, you can tell they've been up all night listening to Elvis because she's like, you look like an Elvis fan. Like they're bonding.
Yeah.
She's trying to turn him into this model citizen. He's trying to be a good boy, you know? And then he does a great job all day long. He's getting better and better. And then he plays Elvis on the beach. And first of all, fucking crushes it. Is incredible, is adorable. But the kid has social anxiety, okay? Like, you
Hmm.
can't crowd him. You can't take a bunch of pictures. And honestly, this is like a bad dog owner moment, if you ask me. Like, you can't
Yeah.
put your animals in situations that they're going to be overwhelmed. And so, yeah, he sort of freaks out and attacks everybody on the beach and whatnot. And it's one of those things that like starts to create a divide for them as well, because it's this really critical time in their family, and it's super sad.
Yeah, the montages leading up to that, or I don't know if they're technically montages, but when Nani's job hunting and they're showing the
Yeah.
process of her training him and whatnot, that's a really fun sequence. I also like when they steal the big wheel and he's trying to get off the island of Hawaii and it's just water everywhere and you can see like the
Mm-hmm.
frustration in his eyes.
And she's like,
Yeah,
isn't it great that we live on an island with no major cities or traffic? And he's like,
loses it.
motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah. Oh goodness.
But I love, like, it kind of comes to fruition that, like, Nani can't find a job. That whole, I would agree, call it montage is adorable. But then it, ends in this really terrible day and they're in a bad mood. She hasn't gotten a job and all these things. And they decide to go surfing. And this is like, this like gets me the whole time,
Hmm.
because he just wants to be a part of this family so bad, and they are kind of including him but kind of not. Like, there's several moments where they're kind of not. And he's also afraid of the water, like, as we know, for all the reasons that we know. But he's so cute and sweet when he like finally admits that he wants to
Hmm.
do this, and he goes and he like nudges her and is like, let me go with you. And they take him surfing, and it's the cutest fucking thing you've ever seen in your life. And it's this beautiful image of them surfing together, which, fun fact, the guy we talked about in our last episode of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, My First Kiss, drew me that cover, like a beautiful, like an exact version of it. He was an incredible artist, and I had that like on my wall for years.
Oh,
But it's like that freeze frame that
yeah.
is so pretty and picturesque, and them all just so joyful. And then it crashes
I
and
was gonna
burns
say
because
it's pretty until it's not. Yeah.
it's pretty until it's not. And I just hate that he gets villainized in that. He's even if you think he's a dog, he's drowning, right? Like he doesn't know
Yeah,
how to swim. He's a
yeah,
baby puppy drowning, and he's not trying to take her down. He's trying not to drown. Like
right.
that whole scene just kind of ends really sad.
Maybe you guys should just be wearing life jackets, you know?
Yeah. Like maybe put
Nani,
a life
maybe
jacket
she
on.
isn't such a great guardian. I'm just saying. Not
Oh, she's like everybody's a good surfer like me, right? Yeah, I don't
good
know. But
surfer, good swimmer. Let's take this 10-year-old out into the ocean. Yeah.
but they pin all of it on Stitch. Like I just don't like
Yeah.
that at the end of the day. Like he's getting again, he's feeling similar to Lilo, right? He's very
Right.
misunderstood. He's waiting for his, family. Like they go home and they have this kind of, it kind of comes to a head and she says this horrible thing and she's like, I remember everyone who leaves, because he's leaving because he's so sad. And I'm like, okay, I'm sobbing. That's fine. He's so misunderstood and he goes into the woods. And fun fact, this is the first movie I ever remember crying in. I'm not a
Oh.
crier at all. And I straight up cried in the theater when this scene happened where he's like in the woods by himself looking at this book, trying to like wait for his family, and he's like alone and crying and sad basically. And then Jumba like comes and tells him all this terrible shit like, you're not never gonna have a family. And he's like,
Yeah.
maybe I could, and he's like,
When he delivers that before Jumba tells him off, but he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Waiting for what?
Yeah.
Family." Like those two words, those hit. Yeah.
Oh, it hits so hard. And I'm like, every time I watch it, I'm like, okay, it's fine. Get through it. But anyway, it all kind of comes to a head. She has this like ability to maybe go get this job Nani is going to interview, and then the aliens attack because they're trying to get Stitch. And I just love this battle scene. It's so good. There's so many like fun little action things that happen. And I love that he's like coming to a place of self-acceptance. He's like, Jumbo's making fun of him, and he's like, make you taller and maybe less fluffy. And he's like, I like fluffy, and he's like, I just love that he loves himself, the little cutie. And he starts fighting and he's like, punch Becky, and throws it across and like tries to hit him. And it's just, the whole thing is adorable to me. And it's such a good little battle scene.
What humor has aged worse? Your dog can't sit at the table, or punch Buggy no punch back? You remember that? That it feels so old to me. Do kids even know what that is? Like,
no, nobody has no idea. We have no idea what we're talking about.
If you're under 20, I guess, and punch buggy no punch back was anytime you saw a Volkswagen Bug, you called it a punch buggy. First person to say punch buggy could punch somebody else in the car.
Yeah,
punch buggy no,
but
punch
no punch
back.
backs.
Yeah.
Very
dated reference.
These are the rules, man. Like,
very clear.
They don't get it. They don't get it. But
do you remember Padiddle? Did you guys have Padiddle?
Oh yeah, Padiddle.
Single headlight.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And we had lots of little, we had to entertain ourselves in the car.
I was gonna say, before
like
the
there were no
internet.
iPads. Like we were doing I Spy for half the half the ride. Like we had shit to do. But anyways, so this all comes to a head, and they inadvertently kidnap Lilo instead of Stitch. And obviously Nani is very upset about that and starts attacking Stitch and them, and just saying, like, she tells him, my favorite part, she's like, talk, I know you can. And then he's like, okay. And then she hits him because she's like, fuck, like, I knew you could, but I didn't know you could. And it's so great. And then they have this whole fight, Jumbo and Pleakley and him, and then you get E, because he's like, are you gonna rescue it? Are you gonna rescue her? And he's like, E. And like, it's just like one word. And then Pleakley's like, you're going to do what? And he's like, it's very persuasive. Like one word, very persuasive. And I just love that they like all, get together and go after her and rescue her.
And we get to your earlier point. I feel like the villain in this, if that is what we're calling, I almost feel like this movie doesn't need a villain per se, because it's really just a story about family and like the growth that these characters are going through.
I think it's the captain.
Yeah, Captain Gantu's the closest thing we have, and I do feel like maybe we should have had a couple more scenes with him, but he just kind of arrives on Earth, grabs Lilo by accident, and then we get the final action sequence, which is fine. That's when the movie gets, like, when it gets into the more silly action beats and explosions and stuff is where I think some of the family stuff does. I don't know. I find that stuff more interesting than all the action beats, but it's like, we need an ending. I get it. Let's have some explosions and a spaceship chase. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's a fun explosion spaceship chase.
I like when he gets knocked off of the ship, and you're like, well, how the hell is he going to get back? But then he like uses the explosion or whatever to get sent back up there. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he and I love that he's like stupid head and hits it and like
When
knocks
he
himself
says,
out.
what does he call him first? Abomination. The captain's like,
Yeah.
abomination. And he goes, stupid head. It's a very good
Stupid
comeback.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like they're so like childish. Again, I have in my notes literally like he's just a big baby. Like he
Yeah.
just is a big baby. But yes, they come back down and he gets to stay. He gets sentenced to life on Earth in
Exile on
exile
Earth.
with the
Yeah.
protection. And I'm just like the whole time I'm just like cheering Lilo on because she's like, if you take him, you're stealing. I'm like, yeah, Lilo, you tell him. And then we get, Cobra Bubble's backstory of being in the CIA and all this. And
And
so
starting the mosquito rumor.
and starting the
He's
mosquito
the one
room,
that
he's
is the reason
single-handedly
for all of this.
responsible.
Yeah. Otherwise, Earth would have gotten exploded at the beginning of the movie, you
It's
know?
true.
So,
Thank goodness. Good on you, Cobra, for sure. So
yeah.
yeah, I just think it's cute. They go like off into the sunset a little bit, and they were like sending him off. He's like packing their lunches and making Lilo's birthday cakes, and I was like, he should get to go to school. But anyways, it was very cute. It was like such a cute little send off and happy ending. And I have not watched the later ones because I'm like, this is just
It's pure. Yeah. Why
pure.
sully it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The last speech that Stitch gives, I remember seeing that. Speaking of dated references, that was like a popular AOL Instant Messenger, like AIM away message or like profile quote of like, this is my family. It's broken. I forget the exact thing. But like it's broken. It's imperfect. But it's still
little
good.
and broken, but still good. And he looks in and he's like, yeah, still good.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in a lot of people's profiles. So obviously impacted lots of folks, and I think it's a very cute quote to wrap things up.
I think it's like to your point earlier, like the moral of this story is so good. It's just about this family and how you can build a family from anything. And it can be hard and it can be broken and it can come with trauma and it can come with all these things and it can look weird, to other people and still be your family and still be home, and yeah, it's just so sweet that, Lilo, who's been misunderstood this whole time, finds her family too, like really relishes in what she has and adds to it. And Stitch gets a home, and even Pleakley and Jumbo get a home too, because they're, and Cobra, everybody's hanging out at the end.
Yeah.
Like that's the best part. Everybody's in. Everybody's in.
Yeah, this is their family.
So anyways, all that to say, wholesome as fuck. What is the rating that you would give this one?
It's real good. Like I said, a couple things that I don't, not that they don't land, but I like some components of the movie better than others. I think when it's relying on just the family dynamic and the humor that comes along with those wacky situations, it's a little better than the action sequences, but I still think this is pretty damn good. I'd give it like an 8. I think it's really fun.
Oh, yay. I'm so happy to hear it. I don't have to cry now. I definitely give it like a 9. Yeah. Cause like the only thing, I think the reason it loses points is because it makes me cry and I hate that. And so I cry. I don't like to cry. Feelings are hard. Anyway, but it's,
you're like
it's
Saving
so
Private Ryan, 2 out of 10. Very sad. Yeah. Piece of shit.
Truly, don't make me this sad. I'm not here for it. Anyway, it's wholesome sad. It gets there. But anyways, well, thanks for going on this random ride with me for just June and letting me just geek on little baby Lilos and Stitches of the world. We are going to do
like for the cool thing about the Just June is we're just doing passion projects at this point. We're not trying to pigeonhole a theme or anything like that. It's just like, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. It's just fun stuff. So next week is your fun stuff.
Oh, I'm
one
so
that you
jazzed.
Introduced me to, and I also really love. But it's funny because when you told me about it, I had like it was on my watch list, right? It was just like kind of buried on the watch list, and you were like, "No, really, like you need to watch it. It's really good." And it is. I totally agree. It's really good. So come back next week, guys, to hear us chat about Palm Springs, which is on Hulu. If you haven't seen it and you want to watch it before
Hulu original and exclusive.
Release.
Yep. You cannot get a DVD of it. You can't get a Blu-ray. It is only on Hulu.
Well, funnily enough, it was supposed to be released in theaters and get distribution and all the things, and then the pandemic hit, and so here we are, Hulu only. But if you want to watch it before we talk about it, check it out there.
Spoiler for next week,
it's a quick one,
guys.
too. It's
an hour and 24 minutes. I am going to rate that thing higher than a 9. I can tell you that much. So if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it because we're going to be spoiling things right from the start of next week's episode. But go watch it if you haven't. It's one of my favorites.
We don't have time to fuck around. Okay, let's get to it. No. All right, homies. Well, come back and listen to that and watch the movie in the meantime, as we both highly recommend. But in the meantime,
In the meantime, follow us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok. We drink and we watch things. You can also check out the video portion of this podcast on YouTube or Spotify video. And finally, you can always message us, we drink and we watch things pod@gmail.com with any feedback, suggestions, anything at all like that.
yeah, and I'm gonna check all of those, unlike Lemar. So please be kind.
We're on Reddit now too. So keep an
I
eye
was
out
gonna
for
say
We Drink and
I'm
We
getting
Watch Things.
all of his fucking Reddit notifications, which I think I turned off today finally because I was like,
Smart.
oh my god. But I was like, no wonder he.
Yeah.
Well, I know. I was like, well, he's on Reddit now. I can tell you that because I'm getting 30 emails a day about it. But yeah, so he's our representative on Reddit. I'm handling the tubes of the U's, and Lamar's on Reddit. So reach us there. But anyways, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.